So on the 5th of November, I sent out the weekly community email and I raised the topic of overly complicated sourdough recipes. Now, the response that I got to that email was overwhelming, and many of you asked if I'd expand on my thoughts in a video. Now, I know this subject has the potential to go a bit nuclear, so I want to be clear from the offset that I'm not criticising anybody's methods. It's about 13 years ago, I accepted a full-time job as a private chef, and one of the top requirements from the family was that I was able to bake sourdough on a daily basis. Now, I'd already been baking yeasted breads for the previous family that I worked for, so I thought, you know what, no problem. How difficult can this be? Well, it was a disaster. My new job required that I cooked between 3 different locations on each day, so I was never in one place long enough to be able to schedule the autolyse, the multiple stretches and folds, and a pre-shape. I actually had nightmares where I saw myself running around the estate with this bowl of sourdough tucked under my arms while I'm trying to nurse it and take care of it. Now, to make things even worse, the sourdough I was making sucked. And because the process I was following was so complex, I didn't know where to begin to fix the problems. And worse than that, I didn't know how the hell I was going to be able to find the time in my day to cram in all of these different stages of baking. Now, this might sound trivial to you, but for me it was deadly serious. If I couldn't get this right, they'd simply find another chef. I would be gone. So I broke the process down into what I thought was the simplest method. I got rid of the autolyse, I got rid of the multi-stage mixing, no adding the salt later in the process, no scheduled stretching and folding, and no pre-shape. Just the bare bones. I'd mix it, I'd leave it to ferment. Maybe, if the dough was lucky, it'd get one stretch and fold. Then I'd shape and prove, and then I'd bake the next day. And that's when it clicked for me. That's when I discovered my own sourdough blueprint. And from then on, I was able to bake consistently good sourdough. But just as importantly, I was able to fit it into my workflow. So I understand the problems that beginner sourdough bakers face with these overcomplicated methods. Fault finding becomes an absolute nightmare, and it's pretty much impossible to fit the process into a busy day. So why are some of these processes so complicated? Because to be fair, more often than not, the result just isn't any better. Sometimes I wonder if we like to shroud the process in a mystery, make it seem unobtainable for a mere mortal, and then elevate the worthy to this godlike status. Because the undeniable truth is that sourdough doesn't need to be complicated. And with a little bit of practice, it's a skill that can be easily learned. Now, what always surprises me, but to be fair, probably shouldn't, is the number of hate comments or emails I get if I do something that's, out of the norm or challenges the classical method of making sourdough. Now, after I released my video about using the scrapings method to save money when you feed your starter, I had to spend a serious amount of time moderating those initial comments just because of hate speech. Now, I know this is one of the reasons why we tend to follow like sheep and we're scared to try something new. We're worried about failure, but we're also worried about the criticism that comes with it. It's safe in a pack. If I keep my head down, no one's going to chop it off. Now, recently, I felt myself being pulled back into this conventional method of baking sourdough. I feel like I'm losing my way again. So I guess the purpose of this video and my email a couple of weeks ago is to draw a line in the sand and to tell you what you can expect from me moving forward. From here on out, when I test a recipe, I'm going to thoroughly explore the most efficient method of baking it so that I can deliver a recipe that not only works, but is as simple as possible to follow and execute. I want to kind of challenge those long drawn out methods and hopefully encourage you to do the same. Not for the point of proving wrong, but to improve efficiency and make it easier to fit sourdough into busy lives. I hope we can encourage new bakers to embrace sourdough without being put off by complicated processes. Now, I'll be the first to admit that there are definitely a few tricky things we need to learn when we're making sourdough. For example, we need to learn how to nail the fermentation. That ain't easy. We've got to learn how to use just the right amount of tension when we're shaping our dough. We've got to know when it's correctly proved. But I believe when we remove all the unnecessary clutter, we're able to focus on the bits that really do matter. I'm really interested to know which parts of the process you think are key and which you think are a waste of time. Let me know the experiences you've had trying to schedule complicated recipes into a normal daily routine. Now, I'm still going to be exploring sourdough thoroughly on the channel, but I'm going to be breaking those chains that keep us imprisoned in the kitchen. So stay tuned for 2 new Unchained recipes coming very soon. We've got some sourdough Christmas pancakes, but we've also got that recipe that you've helped me design, the Christmas sourdough. And if you want to see that controversial starter video I made, then you should click right here. A huge thank you for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Stay tuned.